Okay, in today's video we're going to talk about how we like to plant weeping willow trees in the fall. All you really need is something like a mattock. If your ground is soft enough, maybe a shovel will be okay. The first thing to do is to decide where you're going to plant your willow tree. Ideally a really wet area, swampy area. If you have a yard with grass that's usually moist or wet, a willow will help suck up a lot of that moisture. Okay, here's the size of our sapling. That is about maybe 10 to 15 centimeters. You should go double, at least double, the depth and the diameter of what you have. Carefully take your sapling out. Try not to bury too much of the trunk of the tree. You should go to the height that was originally in the container. As you can see here, the ground is really moist. That's the advantage of planting willows in the fall. If you're planting them in the summer or any drier season, you would have to water a lot more. This isn't necessary in our case because the soil is already really moist. The most important part is actually to mulch. I'm just using random wood chips and offcuts from woodwork projects. Put them around the tree that I've just buried. It insulates the tree. It helps the tree stay at a more stable temperature. In our climate, it gets really cold in the winter, down to -30. So that can be really hard on a plant. This will essentially insulate the tree, so the more mulch you have, the better. If you don't have any offcuts or wood chips at your house, you could buy standard mulch at the local hardware store. Mulch will definitely help with your tree over the winter, but it also helps with your tree in the summer, because when the hot sun is beating down on your tree, a lot of the water will evaporate from the ground if it's just bare, but having the wood chips there will keep the soil moist. You shouldn't have to water your tree as much. Another precaution you should take, just take random stakes like this and we'll put them into the ground, and we'll usually have at least 3. So this acts as an obstacle to the dogs that are always roaming through our yard. People will also use chicken wire or some kind of simple portable fencing. You can just circle that around your plant and then remove it when your tree is bigger. You should also put something that's tall for the winter, because in our area we have snow that is up to chest height. Having a tall stick that stands up above the snow, ideally with some kind of red ribbon or red marker, that'll let you know where they are over the winter. Some people will also use a bucket. If your sapling is small enough, you could just put a bucket over it. You're supposed to do that once the tree is dormant, so it depends where you are, but I would wait till at least the temperature is usually below freezing. In our particular climate, we don't have to water it at all in fall because the ground is always moist. By the time it reaches winter, it's too cold, so the tree goes dormant until probably mid-spring. Then in mid-spring, you probably won't have to water it, but in the summer, you should check regularly to make sure that the soil is moist. You can just move where the wood chips are, check the soil. If it's moist, that's good. If it's not, you should definitely water it. You only have to water when your tree is really young. Once the roots spread out to a wide diameter, your tree should be able to reach to water very easily. When you get a cutting, the most important thing is the roots. You may or may not have leaves on your cutting initially. If you do have leaves, you may notice that they do fall in the fall, autumn. That's completely normal. Weeping willows, it's a deciduous tree. They lose their leaves. It's a normal part of their cycle. It may look like a dead tree over the winter, but it is dormant. That is normal. In the spring, that's when you'll start to notice a lot more growth. Willows grow very quickly. They can grow 2 meters per year, maybe even more. So one thing to do to support their growth is to use stakes. What we do is we usually put 2 stakes in the ground, and then we have one running perpendicular across, and we tie it with some twine. Most important thing is to tie it kind of loosely so you can tie it and untie it as the tree grows. This is store-bought mulch, but under here we have cardboard, wood chips, sawdust. Almost every season we're constantly adding more mulch to this. So this tree that you see here is about 4 meters tall. When we planted it, it was only about 15 centimeters long. It was just a little stick, and we buried it to about halfway. So it was really just about 5-10 centimeters sticking out of the ground when we initially planted it. But then it grew different branches, and all of these branches were reasonably healthy, but we decided to choose the healthiest one. So we cut all of the other ones. You can see here there's a cutting mark, and we decided to keep this one because this one was growing up straight and it looked the healthiest. But that's your choice. You could keep multiple branches growing up. In our case, we wanted to have one main trunk canopying over. One thing you may also want to consider is to put logs around your tree. You can see here that there are some impressions into the ground. That's because we used to have logs here. That was essentially to make a partition between the grass and where the tree was growing. Right now, it's big enough and grown strong enough so that when we mow the lawn, we don't have to worry about disturbing the tree. But definitely don't bump your lawnmower into the trunk of the tree. Try and stay away from there. One thing you can also do with your grass clippings is use that for mulch. We add this to our mulch piles for these trees. Willows like that moist ground. Be sure not to bury the trunk too high. So that's about it for weeping willows. It's a really easy tree to propagate and grow with cuttings. It likes moist soil. It grows very quickly, can grow about 2 meters per year. It soaks up a lot of the moisture from your soil, and it has a beautiful canopy. I like the way it sways in the wind. I definitely recommend it for your property or for beginner gardeners.